Gentlemen, the meeting will please come to order. Mr. Henry, do you call the roll? D.H. Wooten, Chairman. General E. L. Compeer, Director.
Present.
J. Herbert Graves, Director.
Present.
Dr. W.B. Grayson, Director.
Present.
Henry A. Richrod, Director.
Present.
H.C. Buchanan, Director.
Present.
Members of the Council representing the American Legion, Mr. Sam Rorick.
Present.
Bert Preston.
Present.
This meeting of the Directors of the State Defense Council has been called to study the state of the preparedness program throughout the entire state. However, I want to express our anxiety at the acuteness of the war situation. The war situation is now more acute than it has been at any meeting we have held since December the 8th. I want to also impress upon each of you the necessity of stepping up the program quickly, thoroughly, and in every section of the state. Mr. Graves, as Director of the Fire Defense, will you explain what has been done in that field?
Mr. Wooten, as you know, the Organization for Fire Defense is only one part of the Civil Protection Division, United States Defense Corps. It also consists of police protection, emergency medical service, rescue squads, demolition and clearance squads, emergency public works, and road repair crews. The chief category in the United States Citizens Defense Corps is the Air Raid Warden Service. And with your permission, I shall ask Mr. H.T. Buchanan, Principal Assistant Director, to indicate the progress in that particular phase of the work. Mr. Buchanan.
Mr. Wooten, when the United States Citizens Defense Corps was first organized several months ago, we had already completed a training program for our fire departments, and we'd also made a complete inventory of all their equipment and personnel. With the advent of this more comprehensive organization, it became necessary to recruit about several thousand auxiliary firemen, auxiliary police, and other volunteers to man the protective services. The training of these volunteers was a very important problem and necessitated the several training schools. We held a training school in Little Rock, sponsored by the State Defense Council and the American Legion. The graduates of this school, after an intensive training program, are now giving instruction to civilian workers in their own cities. The mere training of civilians in this protective services, however, left one important field uncovered, namely our manufacturing plants. To give adequate information to these plants and to assist them in perfecting their own organization, we held a statewide plant protection school. This school was sponsored by the State Defense Council and the Arkansas Fire Prevention Bureau. We now feel that these plants will be able to cope with both aerial attack and sabotage. This has not been a one-man job. Without the services of such tireless workers as Mr. Henry A. Richrod here, who has done much of the field work in the organization and has organized citizens defense corps in various cities, or the invaluable assistance of the firemen of the state, we would have been able to have accomplished little.
Gentlemen, you are to be complimented for the fine and splendid work you have done, but there is much more work yet to be done. Let me show you on the map. You are aware of the program now in progress in Little Rock. We have several hundred trained air wardens, but we need 1,500. We have many trained auxiliary firemen, but we need 600. We also need auxiliary police and road crews. The same need exists in Fort Smith, Texarkana, Hope, Hot Springs, Camden, El Dorado, Pine Bluff, Helena, Jonesboro, and Blytheville. The procuring of this large number of volunteers is a big job, but you're going to have the help of the patriotic citizens of this state. They realize that basic training is fundamental in their service to their country at this time. And I trust that when the war is over, it will not be said that any citizen in Arkansas failed his country in his time of greatest need. Gentlemen, if you'll face the screen, we'll now see a motion picture show illustrating a well-trained and organized citizen defense corps.
Ever since the time of the Pilgrims, we Americans have been called upon not infrequently to defend our freedom, our homes, and all that an American home stands for. Now, once again, we've had to take down the musket and fight. But this is a new kind of war. Today's battle lines are at once very far away and yet nearer to our homes than ever before. From the recent history of bombings elsewhere, we know that peaceful suburban streets, thousands of miles from war, can overnight be reduced to smoking ruins. When the enemy studies his maps with an eye to bombing targets, he looks for the vast steel mills, the great factories, the assembly and machine tool plants, the railroads, the shipping docks, the strategic highways and bridges. But high-flying planes frequently miss their targets by several miles. Or maybe they can't find their targets and have to unload their bombs on whatever is convenient. All too often, out of sheer savagery, they bomb or machine gun civilians without rhyme or reason. When it will come, or whether it will come, we don't know. But this we do know, we'd better be ready. The Army, the Navy, the Coast Guard, and the Marines all have their coordinated eyes and ears, their patrol planes and seacraft. But just as important as all of these is the vast army of civilian observers. Spaced along both coasts on an average of 6 miles apart and covering all other danger points are people from all walks of life, thousands of them, watching, vigilant 24 hours a day. These are the Minutemen of civilian defense.
Army Flash.
Army Flash. Information Center. Go ahead, please.
This man, along with thousands of other civilian observers, has been trained by Army officers to recognize types and sizes of planes by their silhouettes, to record the right information, to report it quickly. Thus, a single flight of planes headed in your direction would be seen and reported by hundreds of civilians. And when an observer repeats the magic words, Army Flash, all telephone operators are trained to give the call priority over all local and long-distance lines to the nearest information center. Here, after extraneous information has been filtered out, the reports form a pattern which is indicated by arrows, which trace the line of flight on a huge map. And the symbols on that block there tell at a glance the flight number, the number of planes, how many motors they have, and whether they are flying high, medium, or low. From an observation balcony, the interceptor commander watches the map, directs his planes accordingly, sending them up at the strategic moment to intercept the oncoming bombers. When enemy bombers reach a certain point, a representative of the Federal Communications Commission orders the radio stations off the air. Otherwise, the enemy might ride in on the beam.
At this time, ladies and gentlemen, we are temporarily leaving the air in conformity with the National Defense Program. Keep your dials tuned where they are so that upon resumption of our service, we may bring you the latest information. Please do not use your telephone during the emergency.
From the Information Center, a Civil Aeronautics Authority representative orders all U.S. transports and private planes grounded. Such other defense agencies as the Coast and Anti-Aircraft Artillery are also operated by commands at the Information Center. Thus, the Information Center is set up entirely for military purposes, with but one exception: civilian defense. Here, along with the military commanders, is the Civil Air Raid Warning Officer, taking his information from the same sources, transmitting it with the same speed. There are several of these information centers in the United States, each of them covering a large area. From these, the air raid warning is flashed to district warning centers, of which there are several in our state. Where a district warning center is in a large city, it will also be the main control center and is sometimes located in the central police station. When the planes are still some distance away, but seem definitely headed in your direction, warnings speed in by long distance and simultaneously a yellow light is flashed on. This first or yellow warning is instantly passed along from the district warning and main control center to substations called the report and control centers all over the city and in the surrounding small towns. In each of these, a skeleton crew remains on duty 24 hours a day. The moment a warning comes in from the district warning and main control center, they flash on their yellow lights. Pass the word along by telephone to essential service chiefs. But this first or yellow warning signal back in the district warning and main control center is also a cue for a smoothly trained organization to go into action. Representatives of the police chief, the fire department, and other key men take their places, along with the commander in charge of civilian defense for that entire area. From the yellow signal until the bombs start to fall, every minute counts. At night, steel mills are advised so they can black out their plants to prevent that telltale glow against the sky. Hospitals are advised so no delicate operations will be in progress. And minutes later, the blue light flashes on. From Information Center to the District Warning and Main Control Center to the Report and Control Center to the Air Raid Wardens, the entire organization is now on the alert, standing by for developments. Then the red signal. Siren switches are thrown. If it is night, the city blacks out and waits. But let us pause here to consider the most important job in the entire defense setup. Typical of those handling that job is Sam Rankin. Sam operates a grocery store, but he could just as well be a druggist or a clerk or most anything else. The important thing is that he is well liked and respected and takes an active interest in community affairs. He was over there with the AEF in 1917 and had experience under fire. And now, in addition to operating his grocery store, Sam is an air raid warden. He is responsible, along with 4 or 5 other wardens who work with him, for some 500 people living in an area covering about a city block. And his job begins long before there's any sign of bombing planes, with training the people in his area how to be ready when and if. But as Sam quickly discovered, you don't become an air raid warden overnight. For weeks he attended classes in his spare time and studied. The fire department gave him lessons in simple firefighting and how to deal with incendiary bombs. These and many other things Sam learned. And when he had passed the examination, he was sworn in and presented with an official certificate by the government. One of the first things Sam did as an air warden was get acquainted with his families. He is courteously insistent that all attics be completely cleared out. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a chance of saving the house from an incendiary bomb. And what's more, a lot of the things stored in attics may be of value to the waste materials program. Sam asks that good stoppers be provided for the bathtub and sink so these can be kept filled during an air raid, along with extra tubs and other containers providing an ample water supply even though the water service is disrupted. He also teaches the proper way to use water in fighting incendiary bombs. Here he demonstrates with a stirrup pump.
Joe, most of the time during air raids, you'll probably be out acting as volunteer firemen or doing some other job. So it'll be up to you, Mrs. Collier, and the boys to protect your home. One of the worst dangers is fire from incendiary bombs, and that's what this stirrup pump is for. Now, Jimmy, your job is to handle the nozzle. And Mrs. Collier, you operate the pump. John, your job is the water supply. It's up to you to keep this bucket filled from those tubs. All right, let's try it. That's fine. You see, this nozzle throws a fine spray. Now, you use the spray on the burning bomb, or it can be turned to throw a steady stream. Now, the stream is used for the fire started by the bomb, not for the bomb itself. Now, usually an incendiary bomb will fall through the roof of the building and land on the attic floor. Instantly, it starts to burn at very high temperatures. If worst comes to worst, and this does happen, and the house is to be saved, the family must do it immediately. And be sure to remember, when there's a fire in a closed room, open the door carefully. Otherwise, the flame may shoot out and burn you. When you approach an incendiary bomb, be sure to keep down. Some of them contain delayed action explosives, and if you're standing, they may blow up in your face. And above all, use the spray on the bomb, not the steady stream. You can't put out the fire, but the spray keeps the area around the burning bomb cool and prevents the fire from spreading. It also speeds up the burning action, so the bomb burns out in less than half the time it would take otherwise. The steady stream is to put out fires started by the bomb. But if you put the steady stream on the bomb itself, you'll have an explosion, spreading the fire all over the place. As soon as the bomb has burned itself out, you go after the flooring underneath with an axe. The burning temperature is so high, the wood may be charred and smoldering on the underside. That's fine. Now, of course, that may never happen. But if an incendiary bomb should fall into your house, it's all yours. Either you know what to do and have the necessary tools, or you'll be looking for some other place to live. Well, let's go upstairs now. I guess that's all down here.
Thus does Sam advise the families in his area. He shows them how to tape their windows to prevent breakage or shattering, and suggests that tape for this purpose be kept on hand. The women, he says, should dress comfortably, and little children should be taught to dress themselves, so their parents can be busy with other preparations in case of a night raid. When bombings first started in London, people gathered in great air raid shelters holding hundreds each. But they soon discovered the danger was greater that way because a direct hit trapped and killed hundreds. One of the safest places they found is a family refuge in the basement of one's own home. Based on this experience, Sam shows his families how to black out the basement windows with heavy blankets, which also protect the family from shattering glass. How to locate the shelter so that, in case the usual exit is blocked, they can get out through a window or another door. He shows them that with a little planning, a basement shelter may be developed which is comfortable and livable. Should the area be threatened with prolonged raids, Sam may recommend that added concrete walls be put up. But for the present, a heavy, solid table big enough for the family to climb under in case of falling debris, is sufficient. In many cases, porch furniture is used in the shelter. There is usually an electric heater and an electric hot plate because the open flame on a gas plate or spirit burner might cause an explosion during a raid. And an ample food supply may be kept in the shelter for raids lasting through a mealtime. Sam also suggests that one other room in the house be so equipped that it can be lighted during a blackout. This requires shutters strong enough to resist small fragments and glass splinters, and curtains that will prevent even the slightest light leakage. This room would also be used in case of a gas attack, because gas is heavier than air and might seep into the basement. Should conditions later require it, the windows would be made gas-tight, and a canvas blanket would then be hung over the door in such a way that it could be dropped quickly at the alarm. Sam Rankin and the other men who serve with him as wardens in his area have set up a post headquarters in Sam's garage. The telephone there is an extension of Sam's home phone, which is now given special maintenance by the telephone company. During the day, when danger threatens, someone is always within hearing of that phone. And at night, Sam sleeps with his clothes ready beside the bed.
Rankin?
Report and control calling. Alert yellow.
The yellow light is confidential. The public is not warned until the red, because the oncoming bombers may veer off in another direction. So Sam goes to his post and waits. But on the blue signal, he goes to work. In some places, switches controlling street lights have been placed conveniently at street level. Part of Sam's job is to pull those switches. He cuts off street signs and lighted windows. Local regulations may require that these have outside switches. Police patrol cars turn out to help get automobiles off the street. If this is a daytime raid, Sam stops buses and streetcars and orders the passengers to take shelter in nearby buildings. He gets people off the street. And soon after the red signal, the streets are clear. Sam has trained his families well. They know the safest place is their own home, and that they must stay off the streets. They leave the radio on for any announcements. They do not use the telephone except for vital calls, thereby leaving the circuits and operators free for emergency calls. They see to it that all gas stove burners are turned off, but they leave pilot lights, water heaters, and furnaces on. They know that most casualties are caused by fragments and glass splinters, and they must lie flat should they be caught outside when a bomb falls. And above all, wherever they are, they keep calm. Sam, meanwhile, stands in the semi-shelter of a doorway near his post. Sam carries a pad of damage report forms on which he checks off the damage at the scene of each explosion. This done, he hurries to his post to phone the report and control center. Simple fires or minor first aid he handles himself, calling the report and control center only when he needs help. His call goes into the damage report room at the report and control center, where volunteer operators check a duplicate form. Messengers rush the report to the controller in the next room. He reads it aloud to those seated before him. If police aid is needed, the police representative calls police headquarters. If there's a fire, the fire official orders out the necessary equipment. If telephone wires are down, or a water main broken, or gas or light service disrupted, the representatives of those companies call out their emergency repair squads. A medical corps representative dispatches ambulances for the injured, using stick pins to show which units are in use. And standing by to aid the injured in hospitals and first aid stations are thousands of civilian defense nurses volunteer aides, girls from 18 to 50 who have been trained by the Red Cross. Meanwhile, the damage report Sam phoned in has been handed to the plotter, who, with stick pins, indicates the nature and location of the damage on a large map of the area covered by the Report and Control Center. In case the situation gets to be too much for the Report and Control Center, the controller calls on the main control center for help. The commander there transfers fire equipment, police, ambulances, whatever is needed from areas less seriously hit. He keeps tab on his entire district throughout the raid by means of a map on which the damage for all report and control centers in his district is plotted. And then, when the raid is over, a white signal flashes from the information center, and the sirens sound the all clear, indicating that the danger has passed. That smoothly functioning system combines the best experience of bombarded areas the world over.
The casualties and devastation of today's war are no longer confined to the far-flung battlefront. This war is now being fought in every corner of the world. The fact that our planes spread destruction in Tokyo is evidence enough to me that our enemies can and probably will send bombers to attack military objectives in this country. They may also attempt to create widespread panic by bombing heavily populated cities and towns, especially those where war workers are concentrated. I believe that the people of Arkansas are aware of the dangers that confront them from air attacks, as well as the ever-present threat of sabotage. Any interruption of our industrial production, the destruction of raw materials and food supplies, however accomplished, will seriously impair the effectiveness of our all-out war effort. Only through an adequate citizens' army of trained volunteer workers can we hope to protect our Arkansas cities from the destructive forces that now oppose us. The enemy knows where we are not prepared and will naturally strike at those cities which are least prepared, for in those places they can accomplish the greatest destruction with the least cost. I've kept in close touch with the progress already made by our county defense councils and by the Defense Corps in scores of towns in our state. I want to commend you on this progress. At the same time, I cannot help but appeal to you as patriotic citizens to redouble your own efforts and to urge your neighbors to enlist immediately in this essential activity. Arkansas has spent less public funds for defense work than practically any other state in the United States, and yet has built an outstanding defense council. This state has been extremely fortunate in securing defense industries, army camps, and flying fields to the extent of $350 million. However, the state has had very little money to spend to encourage or to assist. We have had the greatest cooperation and expression of patriotism ever shown by any people. Without funds to operate county and local defense councils, hundreds of men and women volunteered their services. County judges and mayors furnished leadership, office space, telephones, and miscellaneous expense. Scores of key men in state and local government have done double duty since Pearl Harbor. They have performed their normal duties without slackness, and they have worked long additional hours on vital problems affecting public safety. There is no disaster which may visit this state which would find us totally unprepared. We still have far to go in training for critical emergencies, but we have already developed the plans, the leadership, and the teamwork to tackle anything that may be in store for us. We must be ready for any and all emergencies wherever our enemies may strike. It will be recorded in the history of this war that the state of Arkansas ranked high in the number and quality of the manpower furnished the armed services. Such native sons as General Douglas MacArthur, General Somerville, Lieutenant Commander Wassell have set a standard of devotion to duty which is a challenge to every citizen of the state who remains on the home front to do a job here which cannot be excelled by any other state of the nation. We must not fail them.
This is Detroit, Michigan, in case you don't know. They call it the automobile center of the world. I've worked here all my life. These stacks are sort of a landmark to me. I can remember when they first put them up. Looks complicated. It's really simple. Just takes ore and makes it into steel. And it goes into hundreds of different machines. Makes hundreds of different parts. They finally meet on an assembly line like this one here. The buggies start rolling off. 5 million of them last year. Takes a lot of work. Needs a lot of men. Makes a lot of noise. But not so much noise that we didn't hear those bombs when they fell on Pearl Harbor. So we stopped the line. Stopped all the machinery. There was a new job that had to get done. Break them up. That was the order. Didn't make any difference how big they were, or how expensive, or how many years it took to build them. If they weren't right, they had to come out. It was tough shoving them to one side, piling them out in a storage room after all the years of work they'd done. Pushing them out into the weather hurt even more. It was like losing old friends. But we had other things to think about. There was a new job that had to get done. Military secrets, so no more visitors through this gate. Here we go. The new machines arrived. All kinds, all geared for war. Here's a cute little gadget, 3 stories high. You can count on this baby to do her part. Here are the presses to feed the parts to the new assembly line. Heavyweights. Each one of them packs a 750-ton punch. You buy these when you buy your war bonds. New machines. New ways to do things. Bigger. Faster. Better. It was plenty exciting. All over town, we started schools, training and retraining men for the new setups. This one here runs 3 shifts a day, just like a factory. Learning, experimenting, studying, mastering, precision, accuracy. Gotta be careful. Gotta be sure. The Army came. They had things to learn too. Hundreds of men came. then went out to teach thousands more. Because after we build this stuff, the Army has to run it and keep it running. Now we're back in my old stamping ground. When you get used to these hammers, they sound like a sweet old tune. Right now, they're playing a tune on an airplane engine. Pretty soon, it's going to look like this. And then like this. And lots more coming. We're making propellers, too. Faster than they've ever been made before. We need plenty. 3 blades of motor. 4 motors a bomber. Figure it out for yourself. They never trust a prop to pull a plane off the ground before they test it. It's a big changeover. Where we used to make hubcaps, now we're making helmets. Where we used to work on brake linings, now we're doing this. It's mass production, same as before, of the things that count today. Ours isn't the only factory that made the big changeover. Same thing all over Detroit, all over the country. They're making machine guns now where they used to make typewriters. And the time and the work and the material that made lipstick cases now goes into cartridge shells. They're making bomb noses now, where they used to make lamps. They've stopped production on vacuum cleaners, electric toasters and gadgets, refrigerators, washing machines, garden tools and stuff. They've changed over to war production. That's the only kind of production that counts these days. These 75mm shells don't look much like the automobiles we used to make here. And these trucks next door, they're a change in scenery too. Quite an order, That's just 3 days' work standing there. Makes you feel good, doesn't it? Wasn't long ago when this yard... Gotta go now. Gotta get back to work.
Fellow Americans, consider the skies of Michigan. These airy heights, these swift bird flights, these children's kites. How peaceful the skies of Michigan. Here is the city of Grand Rapids, Michigan, furniture center of the USA. Population came of Holland Dutch, French and Canadian, Polish, Irish, and Lithuanian. Population is 168,000 Americans. A little frontier trading post manufactured itself into a city. Gone are the Grand River log jams and big men driving the timber down. But even now, Grand Rapids is sawing it up and sanding it down and gluing it up and carving it down and making it up into furniture. Now, a few weeks ago, one ordinary Grand Rapids day, a bomb fell. Yes, here in Grand Rapids, a bomb fell on the furniture center of the USA. Someone was killed, someone of Grand Rapids. As the bomb fell, these kids were shooting marbles for keeps. They didn't see it. As the bomb struck, the junior league was playing bridge. They didn't feel it hit. Where the bomb exploded was here, 726 Rees Street. It blew up here. funny. Nobody saw it. Nobody heard it. Nobody knew it fell. Nobody in Grand Rapids knew a bomb had fallen on the city. Not the boys in the barber shop. Not the Schubert Singing Club. Not the city tournament bowlers. Not even the mayor at the Lions Club. Nobody. But a few days later, they knew. Earlier that day, a bomb fell on Grand Rapids, Michigan, USA.
After exhaustive search, it has been found impossible to locate your son, Raymond D. Boynton, Seaman Second Class, United States Navy. And he has therefore been officially declared to have lost his life in the service of his country as of December 7, 1941. The department expresses to you its sincerest sympathy.
Fellow Americans, and now to the shores of Florida. Her sunshine days, her Spanish ways, her azure bays, how peaceful the shores of Florida. Here is the city of Tampa, Florida. Tobacco port, winter resort. Tampa is 101,000 Floridians, exporting timber and turpentine, shipping 90% of Florida's grapefruit, making cigars. Some of them can tell you about the Florida boom, 1924. A lot of promoters went broke. About Hernando de Soto, 1539. They say he sat under this oak. About the Rough Riders, 1898, time when this gun spoke. Old timers remember about how Tampa sang, "There'll be a hot time in the old town tonight." Funny though, some of them don't know how a few weeks ago, Tampa was machine gunned from the air. Tampa went on shopping. Tampa went on playing. Tampa went on being a winter resort and a tobacco port. Tampa University didn't hear. Franklin Street didn't notice. The Yacht Club and the City Hall, they didn't know about it. But here, 2803 Fountain Boulevard, they knew. Tampa had been machine gunned.
The Secretary of War desires me to express his deep regret that your son, Private Theodore F. Byrd, Jr., United States Army Air Corps, was killed in action in defense of his country in the Hawaiian Islands, December 7. Letter follows.
Fellow Americans, and here are the towers of New York, of commerce rise, of enterprise, of breathless sighs. How peaceful the towers of New York. Here then is New York City, hometown of 7 million. New Amsterdam, harbor of ships and fleets. Manhattan, metropolis of the world. Subway to skyline. Tenement to penthouse. Workshop to play shop. Metropolis of the world. So clever, so able, so brilliant, so knowing. Except did not know, did not feel, did not hear the torpedo that struck New York. Yes, deadly. Nobody saw it crossing Times Square to a movie. Nobody felt it shopping on Fifth Avenue, or was hit lunching at the Rainbow Room. Just the same, a torpedo struck New York. 319 East 100th Street, Manhattan Island. And they knew it had happened.
The Secretary of War desires me to express his deep regret that your son, Sergeant Joseph J. Chagnon, United States Army, was killed in action in defense of his country in the Hawaiian Islands, December 7. Letter follows.
Fellow Americans, consider the ranges of Texas, her open spaces, her crowded places, her western faces. How peaceful the ranges of Texas. Here at Port Arthur, Texas, near Louisiana and the sea, 46,000 Texans say we oil the world. Proud of the Lone Star State. Young city going places. No war on the pleasure pier. College girls swimming. Sabine Lake fishing. Boat sailing. And holding hands. Woodworth Boulevard. And nice homes. Gates Memorial Library. Brand new. Port Arthur College. For learning to work. Looks peaceful. Too peaceful for war. But it's here in Port Arthur. Dive bombers? Yes. Here. Killed someone of Port Arthur. A hometown boy. Grew up with the other kids. Graduated Thomas Jefferson High last June. When the dive bomber struck, didn't hit the news building or the firehouse. Didn't frighten the Watkins family. Didn't shatter the cigar store. Where it struck, where they knew, was here. 525 New Orleans Avenue.
Deeply regret to inform you that your son, Private Robert A. Huval, United States Marine Corps, died of wounds received in the performance of his duty and in the service of his country. To prevent possible aid to our enemies, please do not divulge the name of his ship or station. Please accept my heartfelt sympathy.
It's here in our America. Bombardment, shell fire, death, destruction. Can you see it? Can you hear it? Listen. Americans, give them your answer.
Ain't it the beautiful truth?
Oh, Mary. Shh.
Now, Mommy, when I step out on the platform, you must applaud me. Because the children in school will applaud me. Because they like me. I hope.
Elocution contest tomorrow at school. She's so anxious to win the prize. Isn't she wonderful?
Ain't it the beautiful truth?
77 years ago, our fathers brought forth upon this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on the great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that war.
John Jones speaking. Oh, blue alert? All right, right on the job, yeah. Nothing serious, no blackout. Just a blue alert.
It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men living and dead who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power, to add or detract. The world will little note, no long remember.
Hello, God. It's a wonderful night, isn't it? Bright and clear and shiny. A wonderful night for an air raid. I don't think there's going to be any air raid. Not here in our own United States of America. I suppose that some of the people on our side are being bombed somewhere. Like England or Russia or China. It's terrible. Horrible. But I just wanted you to know how much we appreciate not being bombed here in our own country, in our United States.
I wonder, John Jones, if you do appreciate. Suppose you and your home and your wife and your child, your baby, John Jones, your baby, were a part of one of those other places. In England, for instance, John Jones. In England. Your baby, John Jones. Your baby. In Greece. Your baby, John Jones. Your baby. China. Your baby, your baby. Yugoslavia. Your baby. France, fighting France. Your baby. Australasia. Your baby. Czechoslovakia. Your baby. Russia. Yes, I wonder, John Jones, if you realize how lucky you are, you in the United States of America. Do you, for instance, realize that if the conquered peoples of this world were to accept their conquest, were to collaborate with their cruel conquerors, that your side couldn't win this terrible war? Did I say your side? Excuse me, John Jones. I meant our side.
This is it! right, Mary?
Why, of course, dear.
Hello? Yeah? This is John Jones. Oh, no red alert? All clear. All right. All clear, Mary.
Thanks, God.
Oh, Daddy, you didn't hear all of my recitation, so I'll finish it now, please. The world with little note no longer remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have this far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, and that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to their cause, for which they here gave the last full measure of devotion, and that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, and that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
Ain't it the beautiful truth?